Welcome to Skills for Life, a podcast about high-demand jobs that are shaping future opportunities. This show is brought to you by the North Shore Schools Foundation. I'm Kira Dorrian, your host and a North Shore mom. Let's get started. Well, today on the show, I get to speak with Andish Alexander. He is the general manager of United Solar. So we're going to be talking about the solar industry today, which I am very excited about. Andish, welcome to the show.
Thank you. It's a pleasure being here.
So let's start by just talking a little bit about what you do and what it means to even be in the solar industry and how you got here. What were the steps that kind of brought you to where you're at today?
So I'm the general manager of United Solar. So that means that I handle all operations and truly love the job because the solar industry is a creative place. And so it's not just about, installing solar panels on a roof. It's about the creative ways that we can do that to lower price, increase other benefits to the home besides just delivering solar power. And so it's an exciting industry to be in. And as leading a solar installation company, there's just a lot of creativity that you can use to set up your business and push it forward. So just a very good time for that. And then for myself, I went to Western Washington University, got an environmental degree. And I just wanted to be an environmentalist. And so I went out there and saw what I could find. At first, it was just mainly activism on the policy front. But then I found a job at Solar City, which became Tesla. And my job was just to make sure that the contract and all the documents were filled out after the point of sale. And so that really gave me a big window into what is happening and how a solar company operates. From there, I moved on to another company, Sungevity. And what I was doing is just making sure that the systems get interconnected with the electric utility. So around here, there'd be Seattle City Light, Puget Sound Energy, Snohomish County PUD. Also, if there are local rebates available, my job was to make sure that we secured those. So that was really just about the administrative aspect of it. From there, I moved over to A&R Solar up here in Washington and did 5 years of sales and design for them, set up homeowners with over 200 systems on their homes. Moved over to Blossom Solar, where I was head of sales and just got the company off the ground. And then my last job was with Eagleview. So they are a large provider of imagery and derived data from that imagery. And so what I was doing there as a product manager, not in software, just as the product manager, is I was making sure that everything went well from the collecting of the imagery to the creating of the data to the packaging it up and how customers want to ingest that data. With my job at Eagleview, really what I was able to do was focus on how do we create the imagery, how do we turn it into data, and then how do we package that up so that customers can do something either better or lower cost or faster. And so very specifically what that is that when you need to do a solar project, you need to know the size of the roof, the amount of sun that hits the roof, obstructions on the roof like skylights. And so instead of driving to the site, climbing on the roof, getting that data each time, which is expensive and slow, we fly the plane, Eagleview got the imagery, and then gave you that data. And it was often even more accurate than if you had climbed on the roof yourself, which is amazing. It really speaks to digital products replacing slow manual hand tools in the construction industry. And so with that experience of having worked for solar installers, sold solar, designed solar, and then built data products to increase the usability of the products so that people can do better in many ways with delivering the projects, like with lower costs. That's a big focus right now, is how do we get solar cheaper? So then that just leads us into, my job now is just to be creative in how a solar company can operate.
Wow. That is really cool. And what an important industry that you're working in. And I love that you kind of always wanted to be an environmentalist and found a way to do it through this. So tell me a little bit about the industry itself. I know why solar is important, but pretend I don't. So why does the industry matter? And how do you see it transforming over the next 5 to 10 years because it matters so much?
So the majority of the way that we power our world is with right around 100 million barrels, which are about 50-ish gallons of oil, not only produced, but also used and burned per day. So all of that is sunlight hit the earth a while ago, plants grew, and then that sunlight got captured and then compressed into oil. So, you can use the sunlight that hit the earth millions of years ago. And there's problems with that, with the carbon cycle and with the concentration of greenhouse gases and many other problems. And really what we want to switch to do is use the energy from the sun that hit the earth today, not the ones that hit the earth a million or so or more years ago. And the importance of that is it has to do with the carbon cycle. We can't put too much carbon into our atmosphere. We're watching the challenges with human life from that. And so we need new ways to create electricity, but it's about creating energy, storing energy, and using energy. And it's really when you put those three things together, solar is a big part of when you look into the future, what do we want to do? We want to produce a ridiculous amount of energy every day. We want it to not deteriorate our ability to live in this climate comfortably and extract natural resources out of the environment like water and clean air. And there's many natural cycles in there that we survive off of. And we can't be disrupting them with our use of dirty energy. And so it just is an imperative that we switch over how we create energy, which is only the one part of it. We also need to revolutionize how we store and use energy as well. So we can get into other things connected to solar, but really you just have to start with how are we creating energy today? And it's with the sunlight that hits us today. And really that's one of the most environmental ways to create energy.
I love that. Okay, so let's talk a little bit then about opportunities for our students in this field. I'd love to know what kind of opportunities there are, both for students that maybe want to go on to higher level education, want to get a college degree or beyond, and also students that are like, I want to go right into the workforce. I want to take my high school diploma and I want to get to work. What are the opportunities for both sets of students?
So when I started in the solar industry, there were very few jobs and there was very few companies and there was very few services. So the typical way is you just go work for an installer. And if you graduate high school, you can go become an installer. From an installer, you can then become an electrician. So if you wanted to go become an electrician first and then go work on solar projects, that's fine. If you want to work on solar projects as an electrical apprentice and then become an electrician, that's another way to do it, especially for someone straight out of high school. The other jobs in a solar company are jobs that you'd usually get if you had a certificate, a degree, or prior experience. So that would be design. And it's design on a computer. It's CAD. It's computer-assisted design, AutoCAD being the most popular one. So that's one avenue. Another avenue is sales. So just the ability to sell anything at all transfers over to the ability to sell solar. I don't know that you could get a sales job with no prior work experience. Maybe you could, maybe you couldn't. But certainly going and selling anything else helps. And then you have other project management jobs. Once again, you project manage roofing, siding, anything. And then that transfers over as well. And then other sort of business development roles. And so within that, a solar company, the main thing they do is install solar. So becoming a solar installer or an electrician or a project manager or a designer, all managing the projects or selling the projects, that's really what they do. And so typically that's what people have talked about. You don't necessarily need a college degree for any of that. You can if you want, that's fine. But a lot of people view the installation side as the entry into either the electrical side or the business side. And so that's where a lot of people start, either as a sales rep or as an installer. Now, what has changed, and you can tell even with my work experience, I've been a software product manager turning imagery into digitized data to be ingested in software or otherwise known as automatic workflows. And so now at this point, if you want to build software for the solar industry, completely available. You can build financial products, sales products, design products, monitoring. Everything on the roof that you install for solar has a company behind it with software. You can work directly for them or the services they use. And so that's a big one. Software is big now. But then also financial services. You want to be a loan operator, you can do the same thing, connect people with the loans, manage the loan programs. And so really what I would say is at this point, It is more important in my mind that you identify a hard skill that you want to develop and then find the solar job that matches to that. And then that can propel you forward in a career to actually be forward looking instead of I'm going to become an installer to become a sales rep. That might be the first 2 points in your career. But I think from there, you could say, oh, now I want to go work for a panel manufacturer. Or maybe now I want to become an electrical engineer and I want to work on a new way to create the cells which produce the power with inside of a solar panel so that they're more efficient or use less sensitive materials. And so really at this point, you can develop any career path, even lawyer, and you can apply it to solar because the industry is that expansive at this point, both within the country and globally as well, because you're now beginning to see these connections with the global manufacturers, global service providers as well. And so that's what I think is really great. So if you want to work for a small installer, you can do that. And if you want to work for any number of types of companies to support the solar installation itself, those are totally available too.
That's amazing. The just sheer number of opportunities out there, so different, so many different kinds of opportunities, so many different paths to get there, all within this one industry. That's amazing. So if I'm a high school student, I'm listening to this interview, I'm inspired, I'm like, I want to work in solar, I want to do those things. Are there any takeaways that you could share that students could be doing right now, classes they could be taking that would be helpful, those skills that you were talking about developing that they could be focusing on, just something that you could say, right now, do this, and that would help them feel like they're going to be set up for success in that industry?
Yes, absolutely. So beyond just general learning, you can go on the internet and start putting in just anything. Solar, go to YouTube. There's so many resources at this point. And so if you want to do a general education on anything, just put it in that search engine and start your research. That is totally available. So we're in Washington. And so I would say that there is, and I'll provide the link so you can provide that, but there is a Tacoma-based online education service. So you can take classes through there that have to do with solar installation. There is the NABCEP, NABCEP, PV Associate Certification. And so that's available for people who are not currently in the solar industry and they want to get a certificate so that when they go to apply for a job, they say, I know what wattage is, I know what kilowatt hours are, I know what PV stands for. It stands for photovoltaic, and I know that means turning sunlight into electricity. I know what an inverter is. I know the difference between a microinverter and a central inverter. That is more of a technical course that you can take. And so there's plenty of paid for courses that lead to just you having a class done, and that's great. There's other ones that are more certificate. And then there's also Shoreline Community College has a solar-specific program where I know a lot of people have done that program and then ended up with a solar job in Washington. And then the other side I would say is, if you want to do something like electrical engineer or sales or whatever that career is, you can just do that general research. You can go that, and then you can apply yourself there. But I think that there's those classes are available online. They're not even in person. And it is a great way to just learn all the language of the solar industry. So no matter which job you're going for, it really gets you started so that when you apply for the job and have that first interview, you know exactly what you're talking about.
I love it. Thank you so much. I love the idea, too, of figuring out what the skill is you want to develop and then applying it to solar. I think there's actually so many industries out there where that's the case, and students aren't always taught to think that way. They're kind of taught, figure out where you want to go and go there, instead of figure out kind of who you want to be and then take that and put it into the industry that's interesting for you. So I really love that perspective. Okay, so let me ask you this. If you had to go back in time and give your 18-year-old self some advice, what would you say to him?
So what I would say to him is, if you want to go to college, still do that. That's fine. Still graduate with that BA so that you're prepared for the future. But I would have gone straight to the installation side and probably become an electrician and then gone to the business side. Because as the owner of a business now, I have to be able to speak to my electricians and my installers. I have to go to the manufacturers and pass their tests on how to even use their products. And I really found that Without having that on the ground knowledge, it put me at a little bit of a disadvantage. But then also I would have been paid more earlier in my life, and I would have really had the skills that I needed to go back to the office. And so I think the education part is fine, but I found that when I graduated with a 4-year degree in general environmental policy, my main skills were reading and writing. But if I had then coupled that with an actual trade, then I feel I would have been more valuable to myself earlier, and could have accelerated my career. And so I think that, the advice to go one way or the other into trade or into the knowledge economy with the college degree, I don't know that that's the best advice. I would definitely go back and tell my 18-year-old self, when you graduate with that degree, go get that trade experience, go get that installation experience, and then it's going to make you so much better and more able to do a good job of managing a company and doing the business side when you get there.
I love that. Thank you for saying all that. Thank you so much for sharing all of that information, those awesome takeaways and certifications and everything for our students. What an exciting industry to be a part of.
Absolutely. And if there's any industry to look at for the future for employment, the solar industry is in the electricity industry, and there is an absolute labor shortage for everything, especially electricians, which get paid very, very well from day one in apprenticeship. And so, I encourage people to look at this as a stable and well-paying career.
I love it. And just thank you so much for joining me today. It was such a pleasure speaking with you.
Great. Thank you. It was a lot of fun.
We hope you'll join us again, and remember to hit subscribe to be notified about upcoming episodes. Join the conversation on our Facebook page, Build Skills for Life. That's Build Skills, the number 4, and then the word life. Are you interested in advertising as a sponsor for this podcast? Contact us at podcast@nsdfoundation.org. To learn more about the North Shore Schools Foundation, visit us at northshoreschoolsfoundation.org. Thanks for listening.